I traveled to a foreign country to get pregnant by a complete stranger with no strings attached. I consider it the best decision I've ever made. 7 years ago, when I was 24 years old, I decided that I wanted to have a child while I was still relatively young and energetic. I had a college degree, made $90,000 a year as a marketing analyst, and had been investing in the stock market since high school, so I knew I could afford to take care of a kid. The problem was that I didn't really want to be with a guy. I've tried the dating thing, but nothing really clicked. And besides, I was always too busy to invest in a relationship. At the same time, I wanted a child, someone I would love forever and who would forever love me. And I didn't want to wait until my biological clock started ticking alarmingly. I considered going to a sperm bank. I could afford it, but I've always hated medical environments and thought it would be creepy to have a child with a faceless man. I thought about getting naturally inseminated by a guy I met online, but I didn't want to deal with child custody issues. Finally, I decided that since I'd already planned a 3-week working vacation to a foreign country, I won't say which for privacy reasons, I might as well try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Long story short, after asking around and paying some people, I found this guy who was willing to sleep with me. Long story short, after asking around and paying some people, I found this guy who was willing to sleep with me every night for 3 weeks. Since this country has a low cost of living, he was willing to do the deed for a few $100s. He spoke okay English and wore a white button-down shirt, so I think he was a college student who wanted some extra spending money. The rest of the pregnancy went really well. My mom was a little shocked at first, but she moved in with me after she got used to the idea of becoming a grandma before the age of 50. My dad ditched my mom when I was a baby, so F him. I switched to working from home 6 months into my pregnancy and was even promoted a few months after I gave birth. My son is now 6 years old and the happiest little boy I know. He has a mother and a grandmother who love him to pieces and can give him a good life. When COVID hit and his school went remote, my mom was able to make sure he kept up with his learning. Support systems are so important, everyone. Sometimes you shouldn't be afraid to take the road less traveled. I'm over 30 and I haven't met any guy that I want to date, much less settle down with. But I have a son who I'll love forever and who will forever love me. I'm even thinking of going back to that country to give him a sibling. Everyone still thinks that I got knocked up by accident, a youthful mistake while on vacation type of deal. Only I know the truth. My son is not some unfortunate mistake. He's a deliberate miracle. So many of my female friends are hitting their 30s and scrambling to find a guy and or get pregnant. But I'm coasting along happy as a clam.
Am I the asshole for making my friend's cat lose weight while she is in my care? My friend's cat, Juno, has always been massive. Well beyond the level of a usual, oh, that cat is kind of fat. She was an absolute tank, and she is not even a large breed, just a standard regular cat. Whenever someone would point out that she was bigger than she should be, my friend would get annoyed and insist she is just that way and is perfectly healthy. My friend started a global mobility assignment at her job that involved living in Europe for a year, and she asked me if I would take care of Juno while she was gone, which I agreed to. She walked me through all the cat matters before she left and told me that Juno was free-fed, and I just needed to keep her feeder topped off so that she could access dry food at any time. The feeder wasn't on a timer. It was just a bottle that dispensed food with gravity whenever the tray got empty. I told her that I really wasn't comfortable letting her have constant access to food at her weight. She said, paraphrasing here, "Look, she's still my cat, and you don't get to make the call. Either tell me you're going to stick to the plan, or tell me you won't, and I'll find someone else." I agreed, but admittedly I wondered if I would be able to follow through on my word for a whole year. I lasted, maybe a week. Having Juno around all day made it extremely clear how much she was suffering because of her weight. She struggled to even hop up on my couch. I took the feeder away and started feeding her 1 can of wet food in the morning and 1 can in the evening. I work from home, so the adjustment period of constant yowling for food was an absolute nightmare. But it worked. She is now 14 pounds after 8-ish months on my way or the highway diet. And she's much more energetic and mobile. Even her breathing sounds better. My friend, though, started to notice the weight loss in the photos that I've been sending her and is extremely upset that I went behind her back after I agreed to the free feeding. She demanded that I go back to the old way. I said, honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't really think I can bring myself to do that. I was like, I know that when she is back with you, that you are going to do what you will. But while she's under my roof, I can't just let her gorge herself on food all day when it's clear that she can eat normally and lose weight. That would be neglect. My friend called around to see if any other friends or family would take her for the remaining 4-ish months, but no one wanted to/could. She is extremely upset with me and says that when she is back in the US, she is taking her cat back and the friendship is over. It hurts, but I accept it. I know I went back on my word, and it must feel very bad for my friend to be across the world with this situation totally out of her hands. But I don't know if I can bring myself around to thinking that I actually did something morally wrong. I welcome any and all feedback. Lay it on me.
My son-in-law asked me to be his friends with benefit while my daughter is ill. I, 46 female, had my daughter, 30 female, Laura, when I was 16. We were very close. When my daughter grew up, we became more like friends. I went back to college, and later she, too, doing the same major, only she went all the way to the PhD. During that time, she met and married her now husband, male 43, and had their son, who I adore. I did not really like her husband initially, as he was my age group and not hers, but he won me over and has been devoted to my daughter and their child. About 18 months ago, my daughter started her new job, but was just wiped out every day. My normally high-energy daughter was sleeping every chance she got. Then she had breathing difficulties and was rushed to the hospital, and we discovered that she had a clot on her lung. That was easily dealt with, but an underlying condition was found. She was very ill. The last year or so, it has been very tough. There has been numerous hospital stays, treatments, and my daughter has basically been moving from bed to sofa at home. Her husband has been amazing. He had to stay working full time, but was there with her otherwise every minute. Sunday night, I was just locking up to head to bed when my son-in-law arrived. I got in a panic immediately, but he assured me that Laura was fine. Then he just burst into tears. He said he was worn out, worn down, and he was feeling lost. I did really feel sorry for him because he has been carrying so much on his shoulders. He then went on about how much he missed her touch, their intimacy, and just cuddling and lying together. I said they still did those things, and he said only for short periods, and it wasn't the same, and they hadn't had sex really since she got ill, just maybe twice. He saw I was getting a bit angry and said he understood he wasn't blaming Laura. Then he started to go on about how Laura and I looked more like sisters. Same body shape, same hair, same smile, same sense of humor. And that I looked at least 10 years younger than my age. Normally that's a compliment I'd like, but I had a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. He said if he had never met Laura, I'd be just his type. I just snapped at him to spit it out. What was he building up to? And then he asked if we could do friends with benefits until Laura was well again. He says she would never know and it would be comfort for both of us. He said that I'd have as much to lose as him, so would ensure Laura would never find out. I was horrified, speechless, only for a minute, then asked him, was he serious? He said yes. I couldn't believe it. I told him I had way more to lose as she was my irreplaceable daughter, but apparently to him, she was easily replaced. He said that wasn't true, that he loved her with all his heart, and he was just trying to get through her illness. I was really angry. I asked him if he had already cheated on her, and he looked shocked and offended, and then made things worse by saying, "No, I only want you." I told him it would never happen, ever, and if he did cheat on Laura, he would have been to deal with me. He just started sobbing again. I told him he needed to go to counseling and not have sex with his mother-in-law. He pleaded with me to not tell Laura, and he knows I can't as I'm afraid this would literally finish her. I threw him out and spent the whole night going back over the last few years, and if I had somehow led him on. I didn't. We were friendly and nothing more. Most of our interactions were around my grandson. I texted my daughter and told her I thought I had COVID, so I was just going to stay for a while in case I infected her. I'm not sick, just heart sick. I can't face my daughter, I can't stand the sight of him, and I miss my grandchild. My chest feels like tight all the time, and my throat constantly feels dry and closed. I don't know what to do, but all I do know is I can't tell my daughter. I want to pack her up and move her in with me, with my grandchild, and send him on his way, but I can't. I've got to keep this damn secret, and I don't know how I can or what to do. I can't confide in anyone in real life, so here I am.
The horrible parents that allowed their pet snake to eat their toddler. Jaren and her boyfriend Charles lived in Florida with Jaren's 2-year-old daughter Cheyenne. Living in the home was also an 8.5-foot Burmese python that lived in an aquarium in the living room, secured only by a safety pinned quilt that worked as a lid. This particular breed of snakes is known in the wild to be so strong they can kill alligators. But yeah, just put a blanket on top of its cage, that'll be fine. Obviously, no, this python would escape from its cage constantly. Reportedly, it escaped over 10 times in the span of like 1 month. This ginormous 8.5-foot, super aggressive python escaping all the time. A concerned family member even offered to buy a proper cage for their pet snake, but Jaron and Charles refused the offer. The Department of Children and Families, DCF, received reports that this was not a household safe for children, that Jaron and Charles were using multiple illegal substances in the same home as 2-year-old Cheyenne. They even admitted to using these substances and said they had no intention of stopping. So the child welfare agent that went to their home saw that there were parents using illegal substances, and a lot of illegal substances, and had no intention of stopping, that there was a ginormous snake that was constantly escaping, and a little 2-year-old toddler in the home on top of that, and still thought it was a safe space for 2-year-old Cheyenne, and closed the investigation. And within 2 weeks of them closing the investigation, 2-year-old Cheyenne would be dead. On June 31st, 2009, after Jaron and Charles were passed out after taking substances, the python escaped its enclosure once again and made its way into Cheyenne's nursery and into her crib. The snake wrapped itself around the baby's body and slowly squeezed the life out of her. I can't even imagine the pain and the terror that this little girl was enduring. I'm sure that she was screaming out for her mommy to come out and save her, but her mother was too high to know. Cheyenne's dead body was discovered by Charles late the next morning after 10 a.m. The python was still wrapped around her body. There were bite marks covering her body, and the snake was trying to eat her. Charles says that he slammed the snake's body on the floor, repeatedly stabbed it before calling 911. The snake did survive the stabbing and was relocated. The snake was severely malnourished. She was only 13 pounds when she should have been 150 pounds. Just let that sink in for a second. This was a wild, strong animal, aggressive animal that was being starved to death, that was also not being secured properly, and they were surprised that this was the outcome. It is a tragedy that because of so many people's stupidity, a 2-year-old had to pay for it with her life. Jaron and Charles were both convicted of aggravated manslaughter, sentenced to 12 years in prison, and both released in 2021. And as for the child welfare agency that said that this was a safe household for children, they went on record saying they acknowledge flaws in how the case was handled, but have concluded Cheyenne's death could not be prevented. That is such a cop-out, and honestly so disgusting and disrespectful to say, but sadly it's not surprising. Systems like CPS and DCF are so insanely flawed, and sadly it's the children that have to pay for it and suffer for it. But that's a whole other video on its own. Sadly, we could talk about that for hours. Recently, we've been doing a lot of videos on the dangers of people having wild animals as pets, and I'll be the first one to admit that there's a lot of people that have snakes and other reptiles and do it in a safe way for humans and for the animals itself. But this is such a clear example of people that didn't do it in the right way, and an innocent child had to pay for it with her life. That should not have to happen. There needs to be more systems in place to prevent this from happening, and I know I'm not asking for too much.
I'm about to tell y'all why me and my close friend of like 4 years cut each other off cold turkey like last week. This bitch. Y'all, 2 weeks ahead of time, we made plans to spend the day on a lazy river that's downtown my area and go out that same night. 2 weeks prior, right? She live an hour away. You know, we got some distance. So we got to plan this shit. So we made the plans or whatever. Cool. Everything's set in stone. I texted her the day before. And I said, are you planning on spending the night? Because, you know, we spending the whole day together. We're gonna go out. We're gonna probably, you know, have a good time. It's gonna be late. Do you want to spend the night? She texted me back. She said, oh, I have plans, boo. Boo. Huh? I thought we had plans. So I texted her back. I'm like, oh, I thought we... And she was like, oh, I, you know, mixed up the days. Let me, like, sort it out. And I was like, okay, like, I get it. Like, are we still good, though? And she's like, yeah. So now it's the day of. She's supposed to be in my house at 12 o'clock. It's about 11, an hour before. So me, I'm up, I'm ready to go. I packed the bag, got us some drinks, got us towels, got us tubes, everything we need for the day. She texts me, she's like, oh, I just woke up. I'm super sick. Bitch. I sense a lie. I know you're lying. But you know what? I don't have the energy. So I just said, okay, feel better. Whatever, bitch. Whatever. As the day progresses, she is shamelessly posting all on her story. She out, she drinking, she having a good time, she hanging out with her friends, she getting lit, she, you know, shamelessly. So I'm looking at the story like, I thought you was sick as a dog. Couldn't make it to these plans we planned 2 weeks ago that you confirmed last night. Okay. So I comment on her story and I'm like, girl, I knew you were lying. And she said, oh, I just wasn't feeling good about my body. I didn't want to be in a bikini. Ew. Anyways, what? Like, I said, so say that. You literally could have said that. Why did you have to... I'm feeling bad. Oh, she's so sick. Trying to feel bad because I know you fucking lying in the first place. You could have just said that. You know what I mean? Her response to me saying just say that, off the charts. She responds to me and says, girl, I know you're not talking. It doesn't matter what my reason was. The outcome's still the same. Oh my God. And I'm telling you, me and this girl have never had an issue. Our friendship has just been friendship. We've never had a falling out. We've never had an argument. We've never had an issue. We've always been cool as fuck. I'm trying to figure out where this bad vibe is coming from. I don't get it. So I don't even respond because, you know what? I have to choose peace. I really do, because I'm at the point in my life where if I choose violence, it will quite literally be violence. You know what I mean? So I just never responded. I said, I don't know what's going on with her. I'm going to leave it be. I never responded. About a week later, she texted me. She said, are we beefing? Are we beefing right now? I said, no, we don't have beef. I just don't feel like being friends with somebody who is getting super sassy and defensive after blatantly lying to me. Her response was something along the lines of like, it doesn't matter if you're my friend, my family, my man. I don't have to tell you nothing. I don't have to tell you no reason as to why I don't want to do something. That's just how I feel. I don't owe nobody nothing. What's that little violin? Boo fucking who, bitch. I don't. At this point, ugh. So I said, oh, okay, if that's how you feel, then this surely is the best decision for this friendship. Because actually, to have a relationship with somebody, you have to owe them the respect of being honest and upfront, maybe? You're like, what? Well, I surely think this is the best decision then. Because you actually just lied. Like, blatantly lied to me. And then shamelessly posted that you, in fact, were lying all over your story for me to see. And now you're upset that I'm upset. Oh my God, that's crazy. That sounds like actually you're gaslighting me. Okay, so her last response to me was, well, you gave that man this many chances and you can't even give it to your friend? Oh my fucking goodness. You know, because of that man, that's the reason I'm not allowing people to treat me this way anymore. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. Because I gave that person so many chances after disrespecting me, why would I continue to let everybody get chances to disrespect me? I learned my lesson, ho! Bitch, I learned my lesson! Apparently I needed to stop being friends with your fuck ass. Oh my god, I can't. And she probably will see this. Girl, fuck you. Truly, seriously, fuck you. That was an asshole ass move.
Story time on how I got grounded for 4 months. So basically, this all starts out in like end of February, March. So I had recently just gotten ungrounded in February for drinking. Which, whatever. Yeah, I guess I should have been like grounded for that because... Okay, so we're gonna call her Glow. And then this is me, Flora. And then we're gonna call her Recipe. So basically, all three of us are managers for wrestling, whatever, right? And basically, I was grounded, but they weren't. And we were all like a trio type of thing, you know? But then when I got ungrounded, we all decided to have a sleepover before like our biggest like county meet. And so I went to sleepover at Glow's house, at her dad's. And her dad doesn't live in like the best area of like where I live. But we were fine with it because we're all like super chill. So all three of us are hanging out. But earlier that day, my old boyfriend had broken up with me. So I was in a mood, whatever. So, you know, I'm trying to drink, I'm trying to vape, you know? So, anywho, all three of us decide, like, what should we do tonight? And Glow's like, oh, we should have, like, guys sneak in. I'm like, yeah, bet. But then Recipe was like, I have a boyfriend, so you guys do that. So she was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just be on my phone. So we snuck these guys in. And this was, like, literally their height difference in person. So anyways, we're all hanging out, whatever. But then I get a call from a person. We're just giving him no name because he's not important and he's irrelevant. And he's like, hey, can you walk to the gas station? I have a call. And I'm like, okay, bet. So I jump out that freaking window and I take Recipe with me and we walk together. And then I get to the gas station and we're waiting there for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, hello, my phone's at 2%. Where are you? And then he's like, oh, well, I'll just come back to Glow's house and see you there. So we walk back. And they're freaking making out on the phone. So they're there. But then the three of us are talking. She's on her phone. We're like, yeah. And then we talked about getting like other stuff. So then I called him again and I'm like, oh, can you bring me this? And then he's like, yeah, I can. I'll be at your house in 10 minutes. And then he shows, right? And so I go outside and we're just gonna make him this thing. He's like, hey, can you give me... And I'm like, oh, no, I don't really want to. He's like, can you please, like, I'll give you stuff. So I do. And then I'm like, oh, where's my stuff? And he looks at his friends who are apparently watching. And they run into the car and here I am standing outside in the pitch black. Anyways, so the next day, we all go to county. Oh, where'd she go? And then my other friend decides to, you know, I'm just gonna make him this thing. Decides to get this card. And so 1 and 2 are out. She's like taking pictures, whatever. I had her send them to me, but I was so paranoid, so I called my dad and I told him to take me home from the county meet. And so after that, they like noticed like my eyes and everything, and like they saw it was completely different. So they went through my phone and they saw videos of me smoking and drinking and everything. So that's how I got grounded for 4 months, and I was grounded over spring break.
Am I the asshole for calling the police on my niece and not telling my sister first? I, 24 female, have a sister, 35 female, who has a 16-year-old daughter. Her daughter has started rebelling, like teenagers do, but not like most teenagers by being mouthy or just talking back. She's gotten some sticky fingers. Now, for context, she has been in some pretty serious trouble lately. Like, she has been banned from our local mall. She was kicked out of school for stealing a girl's phone. She even tried to pawn her wedding rings. She's got a bit of an issue. I don't like her at my house for this reason, okay? I have worked way too hard for my things for them to be stolen. 2 weeks ago, I noticed the patio door was unlocked, which is weird because I always lock my doors. I talked to my fiance about this, and he suggested we get cameras. But we did. We got cameras. Last week, on Wednesday, me and my fiance had to go look at some wedding venues. And when we got back, I only had to unlock the bottom lock, which was already kind of weird, but whatever. We checked the cameras, and what did we see? My 16-year-old niece had picked the lock to a window, broke into our house with 2 guys, and were literally in our house for hours. So while I'm watching these cameras and seeing everything that my niece and these 2 guys are, doing in our house, I noticed that aside from them eating our snacks and laying all over our couches with their shoes on and, amongst other disrespectful things, I kind of noticed a few other things as we watched further into the security footage that we had captured for the hours that they had been in there, because I sat there and watched it all. Upon further investigating this, we actually realized that my niece had stolen money, 2 of my fiance's Rolexes, my grandmother's wedding ring that my grandmother left for me when she had passed away last year from cancer, basically just helping themselves to my house while we were gone, like literally just acting like they lived there. It was a free-for-all. So of course the first thing I do after seeing all of this footage is I called my sister immediately, and I told her everything that had happened. And I basically told her that she had until Friday to get all of these things back to me, or I would be calling the police. So Thursday comes around and nothing. I have literally not been contacted. I have no updates on when I'm gonna get all my shit back, right? So naturally, like I literally said I was gonna do, I called the police. Mind you, I did not call the police until after Friday. Okay, so just a little update on that. Like, I just want to preface that I gave them the amount of time that I gave them, and when I heard absolutely nothing, I called the police and I filed a report. I showed them the evidence, and what do you know? My sister calls me crying. So now I have my sister calling me, screaming and crying, basically saying I should have told her beforehand, like before I called the police and blah, blah, blah. I literally gave you a warning. Like, I told you what was going to happen if I didn't get my stuff back. And guess what? I didn't get my stuff back. So now I have my mother calling me, telling me that I don't have kids, so I don't understand. And like, personally, I don't think it matters if I have kids or not. And I literally told her, I said, it doesn't matter if I have kids or not. She committed a crime and I reported it. She literally brought 2 strangers into my house. So naturally, my freaking sister and her husband have been harassing us, blowing us up. I really just want to block them. But my fiance said to keep all the evidence just in case. And they also told us that they were not going to be at our wedding, which, duh, your invitation was revoked when your daughter stole from us and you did nothing about it. So, like, as if that was a jab. Like, we already revoked that. We already took that back. But now, since this whole thing, I have been getting, like, threats from my brother-in-law, okay? So, for context, we have changed the locks since this has happened. I am keeping all of the text messages from my brother-in-law as evidence because this is weird. And also, we do plan on moving, and I'm not going to be telling literally anybody in my family where I live because I genuinely just don't feel safe with them knowing where I live, since they clearly don't care enough about my niece to, do something about the issue at hand before it progresses. I mean, she's already 16. Like, also, you guys, ever since all of this has happened, I have still not gotten my stuff back. Like, I have been searching on all of the websites like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and all that other stuff. I've called around to local pawn shops. Clearly, if she can steal from literally her own mother, her aunt, like people at school, I feel like clearly there's like a bit of an issue going on that is just like not exactly being handled properly. And I just don't understand how I could potentially be the asshole even though I'm getting treated like one. I don't know. I don't know. Personally, I didn't even want to call the cops to begin with. Like, I did not want it to escalate like this, which is why I gave them a few days to return my things beforehand. But, like, I just don't feel like getting taken care of. Like, I don't feel like anybody really sees this for what it is. Like, I don't think anybody is taking this as serious as it is because it's not just, like, family drama. Okay, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I the asshole for calling the police on my niece?